How many of you are from outside Switzerland? That's a lot. How many of you left your home country for the first time to come here? Quite a few. Okay. When you land in a new country for the first time, it's overwhelming. Sights, sounds, smells. It can be too much. Have you ever felt like you needed a way to see into a landscape, to figure out how things work, to see how you could not only survive, but thrive? Have you ever felt a bit overwhelmed and not even sure where to start? I have. When I first landed in Japan many years ago, I won't tell you how many, to work, I was supposed to come into a small town and bring a totally new way of learning English for all the kids under the age of 15. Just a small challenge. But coming out of university, I thought I knew how things worked. I thought I had things sorted. I had studied abroad in Japan, and I had lived with a host family, check. I had studied Japanese literature from the 9th to 11th century, and I could tell you all about women's diary literature, check. I had also studied intensive Japanese at the Monterey Institute, check. I was ready. I was wrong. The place I landed wasn't like the big cities that I had experienced before. It was a tiny dairy farming town of 7,000 people, where the local accent was very thick and the social boundaries very thin. And then on top of that, as a Korean-American woman and an adoptee, it didn't fit the mold of the typical language teacher. I wasn't tall, I wasn't blonde, I wasn't male, I wasn't white. I wasn't sure how I was going to fit into that community. Maybe the kids wouldn't like me. Maybe the neighbors wouldn't let me integrate. On one of the first days, my neighbor said, "Hello, you're looking much fatter than yesterday." And she was really being kind, but I didn't know how to interpret that. I was going to be there for at least a year, and panic was not an option. So what did I need? I needed a way to scan that landscape and figure out what worked first. So again, my job was about language teaching. So I first scanned the landscape to see what was working and what wasn't working, see who the players were, see who was doing well, see who was struggling. I found that Japanese teachers were really good at teaching grammar. They were really good at teaching vocabulary. Where they struggled was to give context, to make language a living thing. So I thought, that's what I can do. That's my sweet spot. So I zoomed in on context and fun and experiential learning. So then, once I knew what I was focused on, I could start setting up those tests. I started building ways to see what worked and what didn't work. How many of you know the game Twister? Lots. So Twister, you spin a dial, right hand, right foot, left foot. I made a room-sized version of Twister out of construction paper and tape, put it on the floor. Twister was super popular. That was a success. It was team-oriented, it was low stress, kids liked it. So I tried some other things. I sang karaoke in English. It was okay. I did art projects. Those were great. A couple other things, not so much. But that's okay. Because each time I tried things, I saw what worked and what didn't work. There were lots of things that failed, and I would do it again, because one is not enough. Then I started to see those recurring patterns. What works, what doesn't work. What really is popular, what kids hate. And then I started to scale those things. So the ones that were most popular, most successful, I put some scaffolding around it. I built a curriculum, some templates, some instructions, so they could go beyond me. They could be used by other teachers in other schools, in other towns. At the end of 2 years, I had a whole binder full of these successful models that I had scaled. These could be used across the network, and not just by me. Those were my legacy. But more importantly, what I had was a model to scan the landscape, to build little light tests, and then to scale what was most successful. But can you actually take what works in one context and take it into another? Will it work? Will it work equally well? Let me introduce you to Anna. Anna is a young woman that my team met in Mexico City as we set up the Youth at Risk project. This project is to help young people at risk to make a move into employment. This is what we do at the Innovation Foundation at the Adecco Group. So who is Anna? Anna is 24. She has 3 children under the age of 7, 3 beautiful boys. They live in a small apartment on the outskirts of Mexico City. Anna spends her days collecting plastic toys. She cleans them, she fixes them, and then she sells them on the street. And this makes ends meet. It's okay, but Anna wants more. Anna wants to make sure that her kids will eat tomorrow. She wants to know that her kids will go to school. She wants to know that her kids will have a job. And Anna wants a job. But she has no idea where to start. So we came in and worked with Anna and others like her. She's the tip of the iceberg. To understand, what does Anna have? What does she need? What does her landscape look like? Anna has information about the world of work, but it's not for her. No one's curating it for her. Anna has ambition, but she doesn't have a lot of money and time to spend on training. Anna has skills. She is so capable. But those skills don't show up on a CV or in a way that an employer would understand. So we needed a way for Anna to understand the world of work and to make her skills visible. So we started building tests. Does Anna need a training program? Does Anna need a babysitter so she can go to school? Does Anna need online mentoring? This sounded pretty good. So we mocked up online mentoring, and we took it and we showed it to Anna. Online mentor, do it when you have time. She can help you figure out where you go in the world of work. Does this work for you? What did Anna say? No, not for me. Really? No, and this is why. First, online mentoring means that I have to have data on my phone. Data is too expensive. I can do something at home where I have Wi-Fi. I can't do it when I'm out and about. Second, online mentoring means I need to show up when that mentor is ready for me. Remember, I have kids. I can't show up when the mentor wants me. And third, security is not so good here. When I get my phone out on the bus, someone's going to steal it. And then not only do I not have mentoring, I don't have a phone. So clearly, this was not the solution for Anna, but we wouldn't have known that if we didn't build it and try it. So we built and we tested and we built things and we broke them and we built them again and we tried it again until we saw the recurring pattern. And now we have 2 things that we're building for Anna and with Anna. One of them is a social campaign that helps Anna understand the world of work delivered by someone who feels like her best friend. Another woman from her community who helps her understand the world of work through her own eyes. And the second one is a tech solution that takes all the great things that Anna does during her daily life and translates them in to a report that shows how they would be applied in a job. These are the things that an employer would see and recognize. But we wouldn't have gone to those things if we didn't scan the landscape, build up light models to test with Anna, and then pick the things that were most promising to scale. So those things are going to be live for Anna by the end of the year, and they'll be helping her move toward the world of work. Great. Would the things that work for Anna work for other young people? Would they work for you? How many of you are looking for an internship? I thought there would be more. You should be. When you look for an internship, it's kind of like landing in a new country. So internships, there's lots of information out there, and you get lots of good advice from your parents, from your friends, from your teachers. But it's hard to figure out what's good information and what's good information for you. So when you start that scanning of the landscape, I really encourage you to not just look at what's available. Don't just read what's on LinkedIn. Really go out there and have conversations. This is the scanning from the ground up. How many of you know what informational interviews are? Maybe it's very American. But informational interviews are a very low threshold way to have conversations with people out in the working world. Because you're not asking for a job, you're not asking for a favor, you're just asking for advice. So pick someone that has a job that's kind of what you might want to do. Contact that person, explain who you are, and say, I'm really interested in you. I'd like to know about you and your job, how you got there, what you like. Can I buy you coffee? Can I take you to lunch? Can I have 30 minutes on a Zoom call? And you know what the secret is? Most people really like talking about themselves. So they'll usually say yes. And they'll usually point you to other people too. But one is not enough. You need to do this a lot of times with different people. And then you start to figure out what's right for you. It's kind of like making bread. So when you make bread and you add ingredients, you have to know what the bread dough feels like when you should stop. Don't add any more water, don't add any more flour, because the dough is not going to get better. Information is like that. You can go down rabbit holes, you can flood yourself with information, but at some point you have to draw the line and then start filtering and decide what's right for you. So once you've drawn that line, then start to build. Build your little light models. Figure out what it feels like to work in that environment. Because until you know, you can't just read about it. You can't even read someone else's account about it. You have to feel it. There are lots of ways to do this, and not just the typical ones. Don't just rely on open days, visit days. Try something like shadowing. Go back to one of those people that you did the informational interview with and say, can I come and be you for a day? Can I just see what your life is like? I want to live it with you. Let me shadow you. Most people, again, will say yes. Or volunteer. Find an organization doing something that you really care about and ask if you can volunteer for a day, a week. Do it in the summer. Because as a volunteer, you're treated more like staff, and you will see some of the less glamorous side of things, not just the shiny picture on the outside. And that's really important before you decide where you want to work. So once you've built and broken things, I really hated that one, I really liked that one, you'll start to see this red thread. And use that to scale your narrative. And your narrative tells you what you like, what you don't like. I want to work in a team, I want to work outside. I want to be by myself, I want to learn from others. And then you're ready to start scaling that into applications for internships. But again, I would caution you, don't just go for what's easy. Don't just go for what your best friend is doing. So lots of you are studying finance, I know, because I've talked to you. Finance is great. Finance has lots of applications. Don't just go for investment banking because it's easy, an easy choice. It's not an easy job. But just don't go for the easy choice. Think about You could go for impact investing. You could go for grant management. There's finance in everything. Or if you really like strategy and problem solving, don't just default to management consulting. Management consulting is great, but it's not the only choice. You could work in a startup accelerator. You could do lots of things with strategy. But the other thing to really remember is that you're not trapped. You can always change jobs. You can always change context. And you can change location. So what are those 3 recurring words that you've heard across all 3 stories? Scan, build, and scale. This is not just a model. This is actually a way of seeing. And you can take it, you put it in your toolbox. We use it at the Innovation Foundation, but you can use it anywhere. So remember, scan is about scanning the landscape. Lots of information, very, very broad. This is where you go wide. And then you start to filter for what's important and what's not just a good opportunity, but really something for you. Once you know what you want to focus on, then start building. Build those little light, low threshold, low risk tests. And don't just do it once, do it a lot. Build it, break it, try it again. Rebuild it, break it, try it again. Until you see those recurring patterns, and then you know what's most promising. Then take those most promising things and scale them. Put scaffolding around them. Make them scalable, make them replicable, because this is where the impact ultimately comes. Scan, build, and scale. I've been using this myself from Japan to the UK to Switzerland, public life, private life. And I change it all the time. It lets me pivot. It lets me prioritize. It lets me figure out where I can add value. But it's not just for me. It's actually for everyone. And this means it's for you. Take it, change it, use it, adapt it. Make it part of that toolbox now. And if you use it through the rest of your life, through the rest of your career, you will be able to drive positive change, not just for you as an individual, but for society at large. Thank you.